not surprising that small boys used to run away from school to join the circus. This is the Hoffman Circus, German-owned but based in the UK for the last few years. This is the ringmaster. This is the ringmaster's wife. These are the circus children.
My dad does the elephants and the horses. My dad's the bear.
My dad's the boss.
My dad's a lion tamer.
Our dad's the ringmaster. My dad does a hand balancing act. And my dad's the organist. My dad books the clown. My name is Misha. I'm an acrobat.
And this is the Circus Children's School. Their school? Well, what's the point of running away to join the circus if they've got a school? The ringmaster's wife is also the teacher.
Well, the circus, as you know, tours from place to place, usually weekly, sometimes every 3 days we move from place to place. And the children were just having to go into schools wherever they were, which meant that they could be in a school for 3 days, a week, perhaps if they were lucky, and 2 weeks if they were very lucky. Obviously, they weren't learning the important things like learning to read, and they were falling behind with their maths. Different schools have different ways of doing things, and so it was very difficult to find any continuity at all in the way they were working.
The answer was obvious. If the system's not working, start a new system. And the Hoffman Circus started their own school. It's been running now for nearly 2 years. Every weekday, for 2 hours in the afternoon, acrobatics, clowning and animals are shelved in favour of reading, writing and arithmetic, and geography, history and art.
Well, it's a continuous learning process. I think is the most important thing. Once I've found the problems that the children have, then we can work from there. It's not like going into what we would call an ordinary school, where you've got to keep up with your peers. Each child can be at his own level and can just learn from that point. You don't have to look and say, oh, so-and-so's learning that, I ought to be doing that. That doesn't matter in our school.
That is the way.
10 years ago, Barbara Barltrop's actor-husband, Chris, took a temporary job as a ringmaster. He was a primary school teacher. Is it different now teaching in the circus school?
It's different in that I've got to cope with every age group. I've got children who are just 4. Ian, in fact, wouldn't be in an ordinary school but I've taken him in because we've got the room for him. Paul is 14, and normally I wouldn't teach 14-year-olds. I would teach up to 10, 11-year-olds. So these 2 ends of the scale are more difficult for me, but the rest of the children I would have to cope with in ordinary school. Obviously, one teacher can't cover absolutely everything that every child needs, so they're bound to suffer. I think this system works until they're about 10, but when they come to need secondary education, then they need much more. Obviously, they need to do special subjects. I mean, we'll never know whether we've got budding scientists.
What they do know is that there are budding acrobats in the school, like Mariska. When she packs her school bag and leaves school in the afternoon, it's not to go out to play. Odds are she's straight into a matinee performance with her brothers, sisters and cousins. Is there an argument that says if you're going to be an acrobat, it doesn't matter if you can read or write?
I think it's very important to read and write no matter what you're doing. I mean, some of the contracts that the artists get these days are so complicated that you've got to read them 4 times before you understand them.
Paul, perhaps his education has suffered most. In and out of school, a day here and there, maybe a week if he was lucky. Educationally, he's now probably 4 years behind. After hours, he's a clown. Performer in the circus. Yeah. What do you do?
I do clowning with my partner and I go.
And is that what you're going to do when you finish school?
No, I want to do lions like my dad. But he said it's a madman's job, so I said I am a madman.
Paul and Mariska already perform. Most of the children in this school will probably end up not as doctors, dentists, sheet metal workers or secretaries, but trapeze artists, lion tamers, acrobats and tightrope walkers.
I think most of them will, because circus is a way of life, and you love it. If you do the job, you love it, and it's a part of your way of life. So therefore, I think you're almost bound to stay.
Meanwhile, if the going gets too tough in school, one can always relax, upside down. David, that's very good. Is it difficult to do? Which would you rather do, handstands or do your sums? How long? Can you?
Yeah.
But how long, David, how long can you stay upside down like that?
I don't know.
Well, what's the longest you've ever stayed upside down?
45 minutes.
My goodness.